who will be the best team in the NFC East in 2025? Now, I think that this is a pretty solvable question because we know who the best team is. It's the team that just won the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to get to them last. We're going to start with the New York Giants. 5.5 wins on BetOnline for 2025. I know you've got an opinion on this, one that's going to upset me. Where do you stand?
This shouldn't upset you for me saying that they're going to have under 5.5 wins this year. It shouldn't upset you because you do have a hard schedule, and the NFC East isn't the NFC East of the last decade. As of last year, this whole division has changed because the Commanders took a huge step up, and now the Giants are battling at the doormat again with a different team, and they can't just be locking and sitting in at 3. Additionally, you got the AFC West, which is 4 losses automatic. Maybe you beat the Raiders. Maybe.
We could beat the Raiders. The Giants could beat the Raiders.
So you get 1 win out of that outside of division. Do you win 1 game in division this year? Do you beat the Cowboys once? Because that's huge because the Giants are a fun team to dumb luck themselves into wins that they don't need. So I'm basically putting them at 3 stupid, they could beat the Bears. They shouldn't beat the Bears. But they could, and that could be one of their dumb luck wins. Do you get 1 win in the NFC East? If so, you could get to that 6 wins. If not, you're definitely under.
Okay, here's my thing. Yes, they have a very difficult schedule. They have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. I think by most metrics, they actually have the hardest schedule for 2025. I've said this repeatedly. 5.5 wins, for them to win 6 football games is too low of a number for me to take the under. It has nothing to do, absolutely nothing, zero to do with me having some sort of a belief that the Giants are going to be competent and good and, able to go out there and surprise teams. They do this every year. They did it last year. The one year where they were awful, they were truly awful, to the point that Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito were out there starting, and they not only gave up on Daniel Jones way too late into the process, by the way, they cut his ass in the middle of the season. They still managed to knock themselves out of range of drafting a starting quarterback. The only available starting one. They pushed themselves out of range of getting Cam Ward, and that was one thing that incredibly upset me because they won a football game that they didn't need to. I just know this damn franchise that this upcoming year, when there's actually 3-4 good options, decent options to draft, they're going to do just enough to win 7 football games because that defense, that defense is nasty.
That's
the
a
defense
good point.
Is good.
Yes,
they can swipe a couple really low-scoring games. I think that bringing in Russell Wilson, he's not as bad of a starter as I think everybody thinks that he is. He's just a hair under below.
Why is he wearing full pads in OTAs? Why is he wearing full football pants?
Because he's a nut. He is just a hair below average enough to steal a game here or there. 7 wins is totally possible for this team, and it is not. To be very clear, I'm not saying that this Giants team is good enough that I'm scared of them, that they're going to surprise people. It is just a misdirected franchise that is on its last legs, that is trying to stay afloat. So Brian Daboll is going to do everything possible for them to steal games against, maybe they steal one against the Commanders. They're probably not going to steal one against the Cowboys because they never do. Maybe they end up swiping, you just mentioned that the Bears could be a really random game, or maybe they surprise the Minnesota Vikings. It's going to be a tough battle.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about how they're picking 8th in the 2026 NFL draft away from all the quarterbacks, I wouldn't be shocked.
Odds are better that they botched themselves out of a good draft pick because history would say that's more trending for them. Instead of going game by game, I feel like you guys make that big, frustrating late season push to get yourselves over and out of a good draft pick. Let's just look at December. I think it's the easiest last 5 games here. If these teams don't have their starting quarterbacks, which by now I think that's the only way the Giants get wins in this gauntlet. If these 5 teams don't have starting quarterbacks, do they win? Giants, Patriots. Do they beat the Patriots without Drake May?
Possible. Oh, without Drake May?
Drake May. Okay.
Yes. Even with Drake May, I think it's possible that they beat the Patriots.
Commanders. Do they beat the Commanders without
that
Jayden
could
Daniels?
be a random game that they steal.
Vikings.
Again, J.J. McCarthy could be, trying to figure himself out. That could be a spot where they steal one.
Raiders.
They're going to beat the Raiders.
You think they beat the Raiders with Geno, regardless?
I'm not afraid of the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to be ass this year.
Well, I saw someone Charles McDonald put Geno Smith at his top 10 quarterbacks for this upcoming year.
And
he had Jayden Daniels off of his top 10.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
You can do one or the other. You could be Mr. Pro Geno, but you can't also be not Jayden Daniels in the top 10 quarterbacks.
Yeah, Geno shouldn't be top. Okay, get back.
Last one, Cowboys.
Which is possible that Dak could be out and unavailable.
The New York Giants 5.5 line is going to come down to this final game between what I would expect to be a 4-12 Cowboys team and a 5-11 Giants team.
Well, okay, so I don't think it has anything to do with that pocket. I think that the pocket where they end up stealing the games that nobody thought that they could win is like the middle of October, early November, going up against like the Broncos, the 49ers, the Bears. I'm
lower on the 49ers. Like, I'm not going to. Yeah,
I'm not shot. Gonna, yeah. I don't think it's again. I don't think it's not a good team. It's not a good team. I'm just trying to point out the fact that team with a really talented defense that is on its likely last leg of its coach. They're going to try and do whatever they can to stay alive. Let's move on to next team. Dallas Cowboys 7.5 wins over under.
I am losing faith on the Cowboys quickly. Even with the George Pickens ad, that's good. But even when you talk to the delusional Cowboy fan in your life, the fake hope in their eyes is gone. There's no light there anymore. There's no more, I put up with Jerry because he's fun and I like being the villain. It's done. This is a bland franchise with an unremarkable head coach that no one really knows and no one really has a feeling about. And that's not very good for a team that, what I would say, needs most inspiration and a little bit of attitude. They don't have that with Dak Prescott. They're not going to get that with Schloppenheimer. The running back room is awful and another ugly, ugly schedule. This is a team that could lose to the Cardinals. This is a team that could lose to the Panthers, an up-and-coming bad team. Bad team. They're not above losing to any team on this schedule. Other teams, they could beat any team on their schedule. The Cowboys, complete inverse. They could flop, roll over, and just take a loss like nobody else, especially when they don't need to. Cowboys unders until they actually make a run in the playoffs.
The other reason why they had such a bad, not the only reason, the main reason why they had a bad year last year is because Dak got hurt. We talked about a lot last season, lack of available weapons. I think that they had an amazing draft. I think their offensive line gets a lot better with Tyler Booker. I think that Donovan Ezaraku is going to be a great added pass rusher for that unit. And I really think that the George Pickens addition is going to be a big boost for them as well. Random side point that I noticed because I have ADHD. Nosebleeds for the Raiders game, $566, which is insane. That is maybe that's just off the assumption that
the Cowboys Raiders game?
Yeah, maybe they're just assuming that Cowboys fans are going to travel to Las Vegas, that they're going to be willing to spend all that money. And that's probably what the case is. Maybe a lot of people are already buying up tickets to that because they want to go on
home field advantage for the Cowboys.
Seriously. For them to win 8 games, they have a good roster. They have a good offense. The only thing that is below average is the running back room. The receiving room improved with CD and George Pickens, but it's not a very deep unit. I will admit that. But this team in the past has done enough and has survived enough to go at least 8 wins. They might miss the playoffs this year. That's fine. 8 wins, miss the playoffs. That's totally plausible for them to happen. But you're telling me that their win total is only 7.5? They were as bad as they were mostly because of not having Dak last year.
They were limping. They were limping into that Dak injury.
I understand that.
They were in a bad spot with Dak, and they were losing silly ass games with Dak Prescott. And then when Dak was done, it was just done. And I know that teams can bounce back and find their rhythm. That's not for the NFL as much because there's so few games. You get one a week. This team doesn't start fast. They like to catch heat when the pressure's off and then make it look better at the end. It's a fail. They've been a failure from the jump, and the startup has some angel investor drop down right before the upfronts so they can get another year of runway. That's how this team has been operating. They have not been operating with any sense of momentum. I am so down on the Cowboys. And if Dak goes out and plays like great Dak Prescott all year and throws for 4,400 yards, maybe they get the over. And I look like a goose, a silly one at that. But right now, I see nothing inspiring about this Dallas Cowboys team.
Washington Commanders win total, surprisingly, 9.5. That seems disturbingly low for them to have 9.5. I'm taking the over on this. For them to win 10 ball games in 2025 is more than accomplishable. We saw what they did last year. A couple of spurts last season where they were a little up and down. Just your rookie quarterback catching the rookie mistakes at times. He had that one game against the Eagles where he threw a bunch of interceptions but still played phenomenally and had a bunch of huge plays in that game. I think year 2 of Jayden Daniels is going to be truly eye-opening. If I'm talking about, I wouldn't even consider it a dark horse, but like a name that isn't the usual suspects to win the MVP, Jayden Daniels is probably going to do that. They had not a offseason that blows you away where you're like, oh shit, like this is Super Bowl winning team this upcoming year. But it was a good offseason to take them a step forward. A team that is taking a step forward where there were no expectations for them to be good last year. I'm absolutely taking them to go over 9.5.
I would have been way more optimistic if some recent footage of Deebo Samuel, one of their big offseason acquisitions.
Yeah, he's fat and slow, and Terry's also not there. That's a good point. I will admit that's a good point. That he's not looking great at receiver right now.
I wish I had seen a more light-footed Deebo Samuel is how I'm going to put it. Not how did you put it, Joe?
Yeah, blocking receiver.
Yeah, okay. I believe you said fat and slow, and now you've rendered him down to a fullback out wide.
Yeah, he's going to be an inline receiver.
I think the Commanders, they go through with it. They hit the over. This team is just hitting all the right buttons. They're also following the Dan Quinn belief system, whereas if you get that dude in front of a new group and you get a little bit of buy-in, the whole team buys in. He's a great motivator, and this team has that kind of forward, upwards momentum. And I think they clear this before December. I think they have 10 wins before December. They don't play the Eagles twice. Or they played the Eagles twice in their last 3 games of the year. The NFL is so good at schedule making. They don't want the Eagles playing the Giants this late in the year. They want the 2 top of the divisions playing at the end of it. But right now, I'm looking at this Commander schedule. So many winnable games. So many games that quarterback versus quarterback, they have the advantage. And as of right now, while we haven't seen film put down, that is a number 1 indicator. Second might just be defense on paper, but they have that advantage against so many teams. Seattle, Miami, they have that advantage over Detroit. They have it over Denver, Atlanta, Chicago, Minnesota. They have a better quarterback than so many other teams that they're facing. They have a better quarterback, I'd say, even than Green Bay. So they can work through it. Blind faith over, and I'm confident in it. That's what I'm going to take after this show. I'm locking it in.
Philadelphia Eagles, 11.5 wins for 2025 on Bet Online. So, I'm hung up on this one because great team. Best roster in the NFL. I don't think that we can really argue any other team at the current moment. Someone will end up coming up mid-season. We'll be talking about how they have a better roster than the Eagles, but they have been very well drafted. They're very deep at most positions. There's really not many roster holes, unless we looked at like wide receiver 3 or their second outside corner. They're going to be so difficult to stop for how athletic and explosive they are, and especially with all the rookies that were impactful last year stepping into year 2. 11.5, though, for them to win 12 games. If I'm just talking from like a betting perspective, it's kind of high. Like that's a
big number for the NFL.
Right.
You got to have brass clangers to say my team's winning 12 games here.
That is giving me a very small margin of error from the betting perspective. If I'm giving you the betting answer, I'm taking the under or I'm not touching this. If I'm giving you the analysis indicator, I'm taking the over. I'm taking them winning 12 football games. That would be a huge season for them to go and then win 12, 13 ball games in 2025. But if they're just going to build off of the momentum of last year, they would need, in my eyes, to suffer a debilitating injury to a key star. And because they're so deep on their D-line, if you lose Jalen Carter, does that really derail you?
Yeah.
If you lose A.J. Brown, does that really derail you? If you lose Saquon, does that he's obviously incredibly important, but does that lose you 3 football games? I don't know if I'd go that far to say that. So I think that they can win at least 12 next season.
I think it's fair, and I like the way that you put it, betting versus like football because betting wise, they've got a lot of teams that they could lose to that will be close lines. The Commanders twice, Bills once. They got the Packers. They get the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, the Rams, the Broncos, all competent teams, good defense. They also get the Lions. So betting wise, under's the smart play. Football wise, these guys are evil, and they just get away with wins, and they take them. The only concern I have, I'm not going injury with it. I'm going Nick Sirianni tinderbox explosion, where all of this oddness with that dude, their head coach, has been somewhat kept close to the vest, where the players are protecting him, he's protecting the players, but we all know it's been a volatile environment in that locker room where A.J. Brown has been upset. There has been weird press conferences that have been coming out of Philly. So I'm not saying a skid, but they started off real murky last year, and then they started ripping off wins when Saquon got his flow. Right now, I think that Nick Sirianni's still problem for the Eagles.
That's kind of crazy to say after they won a Super Bowl.
Dude, look,
I backtracked since we reacted
every year
to that
we've had Nick Sirianni starting as the head coach for this team, there has been some fundamental issue with him.
Yeah, but I don't think that you can say that that's a hurdle anymore after they just won a Super Bowl. I just don't agree with it. I don't like him personally as a coach. I can sit here and say I don't like. Sorry, let me rephrase. I don't like him personally as a human being.
Okay,
I don't like him as a dude. I think he's a dick. But I think that being a dick in his own unique way has made him a great football coach.
I think they were 2 losses away last year from him being out. It was that it was getting that close.
See, I've completely flipped on that. I think where we were wrong, we did that one segment during the year where we thought that like this is a problem. He's turned into a distraction. I think that from the media perspective and the outside perspective, it has become like really frustrating. Unless you're an Eagles fan, and some Eagles fans were also sick of him. They're like, I'm sick of this shit. I don't care that he got us to a Super Bowl. It doesn't mean anything. This was before they won the Super Bowl, and they had that little bit of a rough patch. But I think that we didn't really register and realize the energy in the locker room and the players rally around him being a dick. They all rally around him. They rally around him not putting up with shit. Because we see that the way that they all communicate, all the players on that team communicate so confidently that they all share that same mentality. I don't know. I don't think that Sirianni holds them back. I think that the only thing that might hold them back is if Saquon, who has had in spurts like serious injuries that have completely kept him out of availability, that to me is the biggest piece, is if he plays a full season or is at least available for the second half of the year and plays most of the second half of the year, whatever circumstance, that will be the baseline for success.
They got 2 Saquon Barkley, or they got 2 halves of Saquon Barkley with their remaining running backs and A.J. Dillon and Will Shipley. You combine them, turns into Saquon Barkley.
I don't agree with that.
Power and agility?
I don't agree with that.
Oh, good counterpoint. How would you not? Shipley, small, quick, super agile. A.J. Dillon,
2 shit running backs.
Huge thighs, huge quads. Come on. You combine them.
2 mediocre running backs does not get me one of the best running backs of all time. I'm not doing that.
Two brain cells gets you a show at Hack City, so I think we could be able to work with it, pal.
I don't. Okay. All right. Real great comeback there.
Jackass.
What?
I'm sure they don't combine to make Saquon Barkley. Like a nice metamorphosis.
They're not the same person. You can't put Will Shipley on A.J. Dillon's shoulders and ask him to run the football.
Is that how you're thinking a metamorphosis would work? That there were 2 kids in trench coat?
My point is that two running backs does not solve not having the greatest running back in the NFL at the current moment. It doesn't solve that problem.
Honestly,
could you get decent games out of the 2 of them? Sure. You're not going to get the same impact as Saquon. It's much easier to slow down A.J. Dillon and Will Shipley. You can't really slow down Saquon.
But you could still find a way with that workflow. That goofball at the top, Nick Sirianni, waiting for his lid to blow. And he's taking these big speeches in front of the team that, now you have to be able to handle the success. Hey, dude, you were the one talking trash to fans after winning regular season games in the tunnels, talking about how to handle success. You think his ego isn't going to go through the roof? Oh my God, he's such a bigger issue. He's just a bigger issue than a hypothetical Saquon injury, which he does have history with.
Big ego Nick Sirianni might be more dangerous than ever. Because then he's just going to be ballsy as hell in his decision making.